Sentencing for serial killer Petrus Madiba has been handed down. He admitted to murdering 8 women and a baby. Our reporter Karyn Maughan is in Middelburg. She's followed those court proceedings for the last few days. Karyn, just give us a sense of what happened in court today.
Well, quite a bizarre day in court. Initially, Petrus Madiba was very, very reluctant to be filmed. He would constantly hide his hands behind, put his hands in front of his face. When we were, previously in court today, he was very upbeat, even posing for a photograph and smiling before court proceedings. Of course, once reality hit and Judge Bill Prinsloo found that, in fact, he was almost beyond the hope of rehabilitation and should never be released back into society, and sentenced him to 9 life terms plus 15 years for rape and robbery. He certainly reacted very, very emotionally. When those first life sentences were read out, he collapsed. He had to be held up by correctional services officials in court, and the remainder of the sentence was then read out. As he was laid down to the cells, I walked up to him and asked him if, in fact, he had anything that he wanted to say to the families of his victims, who were all in court today. He proceeded to speak in Sotho, telling them that he was very, very sorry that he had taken their loved ones away from him and that he wanted to offer his sincere apologies.
Karyn, how did the families respond to his statement and, of course, the news of his sentences?
Well, often, Joanne, when you go into these kind of very highly charged and emotional trials in which a number of young women have lost their lives, you expect an incredibly emotional response. Now, throughout the last few days, as we followed proceedings, we've seen family members quietly sobbing in the dark. But when he gave this impassioned speech, there was the family members remained quite impassive. It was like there was no words that he could say that could ever kind of get to them and beyond the realm of grief that they are in. These were murders that took place last year. The police did very well in catching this man as quickly as they did, but these killings are still very, very fresh in the minds of their families. And a lot of these women, when they were found, were so severely decomposed that the families never even had the opportunity to recognize them or say goodbye to their daughters, their sisters, their mothers. So we know that all the women in this particular case were in fact mothers of young children. And, in one particular instance, we know that one of the ladies actually brought one of the woman's children to court. And I think it was kind of a heartening reminder throughout the proceedings, just hearing this little baby crying in the court, just the kind of sheer grief and that has been left behind in the families of these victims.
Tragic story. Karyn Maughan, thanks very much for your update from that court.
News that moves. eNCA.com.